83 seconds. That is how long Jamie Raskin waited after placing a black-covered binder on the table in front of him before he said a single word to Kash Patel. Not 80, not 90. 83 seconds of deliberate architectural silence while the director of the FBI, that is the Federal Bureau of Investigation, sat across from him and watched a man he had underestimated for the last 14 months get ready. Watch this video until the very end, because what Raskin did this morning with that binder is unlike anything I have covered in 15 years of reporting on congressional oversight. And if you are new here, subscribe right now and turn on notifications, because the next 72 hours are going to move faster than anything this investigation has seen since it began. I have been tracking the 2,847 files for 11 weeks. I obtained documents through my own reporting and requested corroborating records directly from the committee. What I am about to walk you through is based on public congressional records and Senate Judiciary Committee hearing transcripts. And the reason it matters starts with who Jamie Raskin is before that binder ever opens. Jamie Raskin graduated from Harvard Law School. He was a constitutional law professor for more than 2 decades before he entered Congress. He has argued before federal courts. He has managed 2 presidential impeachment proceedings. He understands what perjury is at a level that most witnesses who sit across from him do not fully appreciate until it is too late. Perjury is a knowing false statement made under oath. Knowingly. That word is load-bearing in a federal perjury charge. But the credential that matters for understanding this morning is something different. Raskin had been inside the 2,847 files, not a summary, not a briefing document, the actual investigative archive. His staff had spent 32 days cross-referencing committee-accessible records against prior sworn testimony. He knew exactly which answers Patel had given under oath in previous hearings. He had built a timeline. He had found the gap. Patel arrived looking composed. He had testified before Congress 7 times since his confirmation. He had a rhythm. He knew how to eat a question. His 2 attorneys sat to his right, both with clean legal pads. Neither of them had been told what was in the binder. Nobody on the majority side of the room had been told. The binder had been logged in the committee record as reference materials for member use. Raskin opened the hearing. He said, "Director Patel, I have one subject this morning. I am going to ask you about it directly, and I am going to give you every reasonable opportunity to answer accurately." He looked at Patel for exactly 3 seconds. Then he opened the binder to the first tabbed section. He asked Patel whether, in his prior sworn testimony before the House Judiciary Committee, he had stated that he had no knowledge of a specific internal FBI classification designation applied to a subset of Epstein-related investigative files. Patel said, "Senator, the specifics of internal classification discussions conducted in sensitive facilities are not something I can characterize in an open setting." Raskin said, "I did not ask you to characterize the discussions. I asked whether you made a specific statement under oath. I am reading from the congressional record. The question is whether you made that statement, yes or no." Patel said, "I would characterize my prior testimony as reflecting the operational knowledge available to me in the context in which those questions were asked." Raskin said, "Director Patel, I asked you a yes or no question about your own sworn words. Did you tell this committee, under oath, that you had no knowledge of the classification designation, yes or no?" Patel's jaw tightened. He said, "Senator, FBI personnel assignments and investigative designations are subject to privacy protections and operational security considerations that I take seriously as director." Raskin looked at him for 2 seconds. He turned a page in the binder. He said, "I am going to read you something." He read aloud a single passage, 14 words from a prior transcript, sworn testimony, Patel's name at the top of the page, the date, the committee, the oath administered. 14 words in which Patel had stated, unambiguously, that he had received no briefing material referencing a 47 name classification subfile within the Epstein investigative archive. Raskin put the binder down. He said, "Director Patel, I am now going to show you a document." This is a transition briefing receipt, that is a pre-confirmation document package delivered to an incoming director, bearing your confirmed receipt signature and a date 12 days before the testimony I just read. The document is referenced in the National Archives accession log. It describes, on page 3, the 47-name subfile by its exact classification designation. He lifted a single page from beneath the binder. One page. He held it so the signature line was visible to the cameras. Patel's right hand moved to the edge of the table. His breathing was visible, shallow and rapid. He looked at his lead attorney. His attorney was already writing, fast. The rapid, tight handwriting of a person constructing legal architecture under time pressure. Raskin said, "Your signature, your date. 12 days before you told this committee under oath that you had received no such briefing. That is a knowing false statement under 18 U.S.C. 1001. That is the federal statute that makes it a crime to lie to Congress, punishable by up to 5 years in federal prison." The chamber went absolutely still. If you are still watching, hit the like button right now, because what you just witnessed is the kind of document reveal that gets cited in law school for the next generation. Drop a comment below. Did Patel know exactly what he was doing when he signed that receipt? Raskin set the page down face up on the table between them. He looked at Patel. He said, "I am asking you a direct question. When you told this committee under oath that you had received no briefing on the 47-name subfile, did you know that statement was false at the time you made it?" Patel straightened very slightly in his chair. He said, "Senator, I cannot characterize in an open setting the full interagency coordination context that governed my understanding of what materials had been formally transmitted to me for review." Raskin said, "That is not what I asked. I asked whether you knew the statement was false when you made it. That is a yes or no question." Patel opened his mouth, closed it. His eyes went flat. Both his palms were flat on the table, pressing down. He looked at the ceiling for 3 seconds. Then he looked at his lead attorney. His attorney leaned forward and whispered something. Patel did not respond immediately. He shifted fractionally in his seat. The almost imperceptible shift of someone who has just run out of road. His attorney straightened. The attorney said, "Senator, on advice of counsel, Director Patel is invoking his Fifth Amendment right. That is the constitutional right that protects a witness from testifying against themselves and is declining to answer questions that may tend to incriminate him." Raskin looked at the cameras. He said, "The director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation just invoked his Fifth Amendment right in response to a question about whether he committed perjury before this committee. He could have said no. He has been saying, 'I cannot characterize for 14 months. Today, when presented with his own signature on a document that contradicts 14 words of sworn testimony, he invoked the Fifth." He closed the binder. He said, "The American people can draw their own conclusions." Within 17 minutes, the exchange had been shared across 31 countries. A former senior FBI official, speaking on background, said this morning establishes the factual predicate for a criminal referral. A criminal referral. That is a formal request that the Department of Justice open an investigation into a specific individual for a specific federal crime. 3 constitutional law professors told reporters within the hour that a perjury prosecution requires proof of a knowing false statement. The document Raskin produced this morning is a receipt, with a date, with a signature. Proof does not typically present itself this cleanly. 2,847 files, 47 names, 1 signature on 1 page. Raskin walked in with a binder that fit under one arm. Patel could not explain 14 words of his own testimony. His own signed receipt confirmed why. Subscribe right now, because the criminal referral procedural clock begins within the next 48 hours of a formal invocation on record. Share this everywhere. 83 seconds of silence, 1 page with a signature, and a Fifth Amendment that told this committee everything it needed to know about 2,847 files that have been sitting in a vault for 14 months. What happens to those files in the next 48 hours is the chapter this story has been building toward, and that is the chapter I will be covering when it opens.